I would like to start this session with a blunt statement by the well-known brain scientist John Medina. And he says, if you wanted to create an education environment that was directly opposed to what the brain was good at doing, you probably would design something like a classroom. And if you wanted to change things, you might have to tear it down and start over. I myself have been to dozens of schools, and for me it is very clear. The learning environment gives a very precise idea about how learning takes place in a school. Unfortunately, most students find these environments not inviting, sometimes even very depressing. Although we all know that the environment matters greatly in education, and of course to the evolution of the individual human being, we all tend to ignore this obvious fact. But facilities shape our educational practice. When schools are built, most people simply ignore the fact that human beings and brains do not work like machines. Not even our memories work like that. Actually, our memories do amazing things, but our memories are not built for memorizing meaningless facts without context. For a very, very long time, administrators and politicians did not focus on the learning child and created schools that are built for lecturing, mainly for lecturing. And that is the reason why some people use a certain phrase, cells and bells, to describe a school. So cells and bells means, well, students learn in cells, and as soon as the bell goes off, they change the cell and carry on. So we all want schools that engage students and make them love what they do. But how can we create a positive learning environment that gives students limitless opportunities? An economist, Alfred J. Chandler Jr., once said, "Structure follows strategy." So the question for our future schools might be, what is the strategy, or what is the purpose of these schools? Or should I probably ask, what purpose should our schools have in the near future? Physical space and the things happening in them are still very traditional. Rooms are still designed for a situation which one person is talking to or lecturing a group of students, but that is limiting the potential of the students. So what should be the role of schools in the near future? How can we connect the neuroscience of learning with the way we design schools? And do we actually need schools when their mission has become irrelevant? So again, the question, how do we create nurturing, productive environments that have lots of opportunities for exploration and learning? Or simply put, what is a nurturing environment for students? Is it, for example, a colorful environment, red, green, blue? Sometimes adults seem to believe it's all about colorful rooms, but it's not that simple. Some students do not even like colorful rooms. So maybe an analogy might help. So as human beings, we have different vehicles and cars for different purposes. So we use a certain car for driving in a city, but not a truck. So the question remains, how do we create nurturing, productive environments that have lots of opportunities for exploration and learning? But should really I or should we give this answer? I mean, we all have good intentions, but honestly, Don't we know that young people see the world with other eyes? Unfortunately, in our society, children and students usually have very little control over their environment. They must depend on all of us to keep them safe and to meet their basic physical needs. They must also depend on us to do our best to provide them the most nurturing physical and emotional environment possible. And when a child's environment is not meeting his or her needs or is causing stress, this child or student may not be able to identify those needs. Children communicate stress and their needs through their behavior. A child's behavior is always telling us something. Acting out behavior is usually a call for help, telling us, I am overstimulated, or maybe I need space to move around. So when we are somehow forced to tell a child to stop behaving in that way, what the students might hear is simply, stop trying to tell me what's wrong or what I need. So what we need is to take time and try to figure out what this behavior is telling us. And looking at the environment is a useful place to begin with. But should we really be the ones who invent and design these new learning spaces for the future? Because we think that students are experts of their own learning experiences and of their needs, we chose a different approach in Hamburg. And when the Institute for Teacher Training only had a very few days to create a plan for an innovative new learning space that is intended to be kind of a new role model for future learning spaces at schools, we decided to involve students. And our students, age 14 to 18, used elements of the design thinking method and came up with a very wide approach. First, they made clear that they see the whole city as a learning space, but school still plays a key role for them, where they meet teachers and other students, where they work together and collaborate. Focusing on the individual as well as on the group, they started then by reinventing the learning process with much more freedom for them, what they do, when, how, and where. And their answer when it comes to the physical learning spaces is create a complex room with different functionalities that serve certain activities. For instance, collaboration, contemplation, lecturing. They also cared about the color of the rooms and the furniture. They wanted large windows, comfortable furniture. They cared about the color of the lights in the room, but they also wanted plants. And they wanted to use technology, of course, but as a tool for exploring the world. Let me show you just a few minutes of their amazing presentation. Even if you don't understand German, you will probably sense the passion and the atmosphere in the room.
Man sollte sich selber die Zeit einteilen können. Also jetzt mache ich 5 Stunden Bio und danach habe ich keine Lust mehr und morgen mache ich dann 2 Stunden Musik und danach Physik oder so, anstatt einen Stundenplan zu haben, wo man komplett alles getaktet hat. Und ja, so kann man dann halt auch größere eigene Projekte machen.
Genau, das hatten wir bei uns in der Schule, SEPA hieß das. Seminar, selbst erarbeitete Projektarbeit, dass jeder Schüler in Einer- oder Zweiergruppen hat sich für ein ganzes Semester ein Projekt rausgesucht, daran erarbeitet und hatte dann im Unterricht jede Woche Zeit, daran zu arbeiten. Und das wäre eben, also das hat wirklich super geklappt und da sind viele tolle Sachen dabei entstanden, wo dann Leute wirklich mit Herz, also mit der eigenen Willensstärke daran gearbeitet haben, als weniger darum geht, jetzt eine gute Note zu kriegen, sondern mehr darum, selber wirklich was zu erarbeiten. Und das hat, glaube ich, fast allen viel mehr Spaß gemacht als der normale Unterricht.
Der Ansporn war halt größer, wenn man das Projekt eigen gestellt hat und nicht im Hinterkopf immer haben musste, wie antworte ich, damit es dem Lehrer bestmöglich gefällt. So. Und was wir auch noch aufgeschrieben haben, waren mehr Wahlfächer, dass du ein bisschen mehr die Möglichkeit hast, dich auf deine Interessen zu spezialisieren und nicht unbedingt alles mitlernen musst, was für dich vielleicht gar nicht wichtig wäre so, oder für deinen Interessenbereich. Ja, das gehen wir mal über zu unserem Programm.
Ja, dann haben wir jetzt hier einen Plan gemacht von den Räumen oben, wie man das so zum Beispiel gestalten könnte. Ja, wir haben erstmal an so einen, es sollen hier in diesem Raum oder in Räumen sollen sehr modulare, kompakte Tische verwendet werden, wie ihr das schon gesagt hatte, dass man die einfach zusammenstellen kann. Wir hatten da eher so an Dreiecke gedacht, weil man da schon extrem viel mitmachen kann. Und ja, genau, das hier soll so der Raum sein, wo man mit diesen Lerninseln mit seinen Freunden oder so lernen kann, aber auch engeren Kontakt mit den Lehrern machen kann, mit den Hausaufgaben nochmal nachmachen kann oder mit denen durchsprechen, also Nachhilfe nochmal mit dem Lehrer oder so, falls er gerade Zeit hat. Und ja.
Wir haben die Räume ein bisschen so nach Funktionen aufgeteilt, dass man hier erstmal so quasi die Gruppenarbeitsphase hat. Hier haben wir dann so eine Ecke gemacht, wo man, wenn man sich vielleicht ein bisschen mehr konzentrieren möchte, so einen Bereich hat, der vielleicht ein bisschen abgeschieden ist. Dann haben wir hier eine Reihe von Tischen mit Bildschirmen, wo man auch Bring Your Own Device, dein Laptop anschließen kannst. Und hier haben wir es dafür, oder haben wir quasi die Möglichkeit gesehen, diese kleinen Räume einmal, die Wände als zu einem großen Raum zu machen.
Falls das möglich wäre, und da hätte man dann halt auch die Möglichkeit, doch noch Frontalunterricht zu machen, falls sich das anbietet. Ja. Oder eine Doku zu gucken oder so über das Thema und ja, genau.
I would like to give a short summary of what the students wanted these learning spaces to be like. So, learning environments should be environments that are designed for a change and for challenges. They should be places of joyful exploration, discovery, play, and curiosity. But rooms must also be reliable. So if a student wants to learn on his own, read, study, there must be a place for, as well as for collaborative activity and producing prototypes, for instance. And on the other hand, creating the right environment by involving students, making them part of the process, at least in my opinion, is the first step of doing the right thing by listening to our students. So no wonder the students never expected that their ideas would really come true. However, more than 90% of their ideas will come true, and the future learning spaces will be open this December in Hamburg. I need to add that our students also had great ideas on how to use digital platforms and devices to improve the learning process. And for instance, educational holodecks could be a great way of exploring the Earth, the deep sea, our history and space, and expand our horizons. Using modern technology like VR, virtual reality, and AR, augmented reality, that could expand our physical space and unlimit our learning opportunities. So instead of seeing schools as places where teachers lecture, we all need to widen our idea of learning and bring together people with a variety of skills. But I think this could be the topic of my next session.
I listen at home, I listen at school.
I listen to adults and I listen to rules.
I am young. That's why I have to listen.
I have to accept decisions. I have to accept the old.
I have to accept politicians and I have to accept the rules.
I am young. That's why I have to accept. But what would happen if I could talk?
If I had a platform that could make people listen. Listen to what I think, listen to who I am, and listen to what I can do. Listen because I am young.
Because we see the world with other eyes. Eyes we will not preserve, because you cannot preserve the young. So let's listen to me now, as long as I'm young. Let's make youth talk, and make the world talk youth.